This is the semi-sumo deadlift. So right off the bat here with our stance, you're going to see that we're a little narrower than a traditional sumo deadlift or a regular sumo deadlift. Rather, we'd be kind of outside the knurlings as wide as we can on a regular sumo deadlift. But obviously, we are wider than the shoulder width. We'd be inside here in shoulder width stance for a conventional deadlift. The idea here is that for those of us with longer femurs, this can be a little bit more of a comfortable stance that kind of gets the best of both worlds. You're going to see that I'm going to set up with my toes nearly straight or straight on. We can go a little bit out-toed, but for semi-sumo, we really don't want to be like totally out-toed. So I tell people really like 15 degrees is a good max, just a subtle out-turn if you feel you need it. I feel okay with my feet pretty much straight on, but it's going to be individual. You're going to see when I go get the bar here. So I'm going to drop my hand straight down from shoulder width and I'm going to grab the bar. Important to say is that we're going to start this always with a double overhand grip. Okay, we're going to do that as long as we can until grip becomes a limiting factor so we get nice and strong with our grip. Then we can switch to something like a mixed or a hook grip depending on the demands of who's training the movement. You'll see, and there's going to be a side view of this, that as I go adjust the bar. So first thing is when I set up here, let's come back to the beginning. I am setting up, you can't see here, but you will see better from the side view. So this bar is running right through basically where my shoes tie, or in other words, the middle of my foot. And that's very, very important. So there's going to be a little bit of daylight between your shins and the bar when you take the bar and you're standing tall. We want to make sure that we are centered on the bar in that midfoot. If we're too far behind the bar, okay, that's going to put us in a bad position. If we're right up on the bar is going to roll forward when we go to address it. So you see, all I have to do here really is push my hips back, and then I just allow my knees to just push forward slightly so my shins come to light contact with the bar as I push those hips back, but I'm not pushing my knees and shins so far forward that the bar rolls at all, okay? So I'm really just closing the daylight between that space. You're going to see this better once we get going. So you'll see here that the first adjustment that I make when I go to pull is I'm going to just kind of subtly sit back into my hips. Again, not letting my knees push forward more, but you see I just kind of subtly sit back into the hips. Okay, I get my breath. And then you're going to see the last thing I do before I leave the ground is I push my knees out. So I'm consciously trying to open my knees outward. We want to do this with our hips, okay? So we're going to have to push those knees out in order to break the floor with the hips. If you're doing it right, as the weight gets heavy, the hardest part will be to break the floor here. Once you can get to about mid shin, that weight is just going to fly through lockout. So sumo deadlift should never look like sort of a slow grinder lockout. If you can break the floor on this lift by pushing those knees out, that's the hardest part to overcome. And then the weight really just flies once we get it moving. So you see just that little subtle sit back and then open the knees, but that barbell stays in one straight path. It's never rolling forward. So you'll see a little better from the side here when we switch angles. You're going to see me come set up. So again, that barbell, you can't see my feet, but it's running right through the middle of my foot where my shoes tie. You see I just do that, push my hips back, and then as I push my hips back, my knees do come forward just slightly, boom, and they close the daylight, but that bar does not roll away from me. So in other words, I should see the barbell right under my shoulder blades here, the barbell path, and that's how we know we're centered. You're going to see me keep my chin and my stare down in front of me a bit. The idea here is we're going to draw a straight line from our head to our tailbone, so we tuck that chin, nice double chin, and you're going to see me do a little subtle sitting back into my hips, but that barbell doesn't roll. Going to get my breath, open my knees up, push away from the floor through my heels, pushing my knees out. One more, sit in my hips, push the knees out. All that slack is very important. We want to make sure when we pull that there's no slack left in our arms. Everything is locked out. We're like a spring ready to leave the ground. Okay, that's how we pull safely, and that's how we get power off the ground. So set myself, get my breath, and then straight path with that bar up and down. This is the semi-sumo deadlift.